Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Around the Leagues with Brady B. I'm your host, Brady Bauer, and this is going to be our first episode back since spring break. Yes, the second half of my almost last semester is almost up. I say that because I have to take a Spanish class in the summer, which I've been putting off my whole college career. Sorry, just chugged the water, so I had a little hiccup there, but I've been putting off the Spanish class my whole college career, so now it's time that I actually have to take the class, and I don't know if it's going to be any helpful because I'm taking it at a community college, I believe, because I guess that's a thing that's possible for language requirement, but it was a whole freaking fiasco to get to the position where I'm at anyway, because I had to redo the placement exam, get that all straightforward, redo it, because not gonna lie, on my first attempt I failed it miserably, but apparently it goes away after a year, so I was able to take another attempt, studied for that one a little better, and got a better little grade. Not a grade, yeah, grade on it, or grade or score, whatever you want to choose. But that's where I'm at right now, getting ready for the spring semester, or we're already in the spring semester, but continuing the spring semester. And you kind of realize you're almost halfway through when you're at March Madness, because that's when, in the sports world, that's like the only thing to look forward to right now for a while. Except for baseball, if you're a big baseball fan, then you have that to look forward to. But March Madness is a key sporting event that's taking place right now. I went over it with you guys last week about my bracket. Or the week before we went on spring break. The first round, I was looking pretty solid. I took a screenshot because I did not want to lose this place in history. But at a time, on the Saturday of March Madness, the first Saturday of March Madness, I was ranked 23,000. I don't know why I was having such a problem saying that. 23,000, and I had a 99.9% with 430 points. If you've been playing fantasy football or making brackets, that's awesome. That's a crazy number, because if you go look at the leaderboard for the ESPN Tournament Challenge, there's about 50 million people, I think, that are on it. So that just shows you how many people are there. And I was in the top 23,000. So I was locked in the March Madness the whole time, monitoring this, hoping that I could I know I wasn't going to get a perfect bracket, but it's still cool to flex on people and say, oh, what if it got down to single digits? I was 9 in the world. Probably not that high, but what if I was 300th? Triple digits, 300th in the world. That would be my ultimate flex of my life. I feel like people would have to give me jobs in sports media because of that, because it's not just an everyday walk in the park thing to accomplish right there. But and then even looking at the round of 32, my round of 32 is perfectly green except for the two at the bottom Midwest region. So we'll go through that really quick. Duke and TCU, that was an easy one, but we all know how it ends for Duke. We'll get onto that in the next round. St. John's, Kansas, that was another great game. It really heated up in the last 4 minutes. I almost said something else, but minutes of the game. Then we had the Michigan State-Louisville game, which was also another solid game. I really didn't get to watch that one because I was working, but I was saying it reminds me of a 2010 or 2012 March Madness feel, because back in that time, it was Rick Pitino at Louisville coaching, and obviously Tom Izzo was still at MSU, head coach at Michigan State. So that's where we're at now with that, the history for those two teams. And obviously, Michigan State came up on top in that one. And then the next matchup was the matchup of the crazy coaches. We have UCLA and Mick Cronin going up against Dan Hurley and UConn. UConn blew them out. It was kind of the Big Ten. The Big Ten was having a good run in the tournament until UCLA just showed that they got walloped by UConn. And I'm a really big fan of UConn center, the Reed guy. I hope he stays a couple more years, works on his offense a little more, because that's the type of player, like a Jalen Duran type of player, that I could see him being in the NBA. Maybe not the all-star by his third season like Jalen Duran was, but definitely like an impact player on a championship team or a contending team like Duran is with the the Pistons. Next up, we have the Florida Gators and the Iowa Hawkeyes. And that was the upset. People were complaining about upsets, but we literally had one with Iowa right there. Iowa took down number 1 and reigning champions, the Florida Gators, by a score of 73-72. It was like the whole game, you can kind of sense that Iowa was on their way to doing it. But Bennett Sturts and the Iowa team, they passed it to this one guy in the corner that I wasn't too big of a fan of, like, the whole game, because he just seemed like cocky. Every time he shot a three, he would run down the court with his tongue open, jeez Louise. But he would just run all over the place, acting like he was the best player known to man. So I wanted Florida to win also because of my bracket, because that was also where one of the spots I took an L from all the games I mentioned. We just got to where we're at now. That was the first loss I had in the South region. Then Vanderbilt and Nebraska. I chose Nebraska basically just because they've never won a playoff March Madness game, but they won against Troy in the previous round and in Vanderbilt in the next round. But this game wasn't just ordinary game. Like, it was a back and forth game. If you haven't watched the highlights of it, I would add that to your radar and a couple other games. If you hear me say add it to your radar, those are games that you should go in your notes app right now and just put it in and be on the lookout to watch this game, because you will not be disappointed with it. Next up, we have Illinois and VCU. I moved on from the Nebraska game too fast. We saw Nebraska hit a shot, or Vanderbilt hit a shot that went in and out, literally almost all the way in, skirted right back out, and that was how they lost their game. My friend at work, he had Vanderbilt winning the whole thing, which is funny. But honestly, if you look at it, if they beat Nebraska, then they face Iowa, that gives them a chance to make a crazy run, but they would end up meeting who Iowa faced, who we'll get into right now. The next matchup was VCU and Illinois. Illinois took care of business and ran them out of the building, 76-55, Fighting Illini win. My brother's alma mater, UIC's sibling school, so I guess we got to cheer for them because our team has not been in the tournament. So Illinois moved down to the next round for that one. I was just speeding by these so we can get into like the rounds that are actually going on when you're going to listen to this. Then we have Texas A&M versus Houston, where Houston destroyed them as well. And I need to add a thing into my notes, just like I told you guys to, where I cannot choose Texas A&M in the tournament anymore because every year I pick them, they just either, one, don't show up, or I pick against them, and then they just destroy the team I pick. And the former happened on this one. They did not deserve to be on the court with with Houston. Next, we have Arizona and Utah State. This game actually was surprisingly closer than I was going to say another blowout, but Utah State gave them some problems. Arizona they have 4 guys that can score the ball and then one big center that can get rebounds and also finish in the paint. That's what you need in college basketball to win these days, and they did just that. Next up, Arkansas versus High Point. High Point coming off their first round upset of Wisconsin. And Woo Pigs, Arkansas won. I actually had Arkansas beating Wisconsin in this round, personally, but the new stupid the ESPN app does not show it like that. So I had Arkansas winning that one. Texas Gonzaga, I didn't really watch that game either, so we'll just skip on from that, but Texas won that one. Then we have Purdue and Miami. Don't think that game was ever really close either. I was working for that one too, so I was not able to watch it as much as some of the other games. Then next is Michigan St. Louis. I was also at work for this game, but I wanted to watch it because if you remember, the center for St. Louis was formerly on Indiana State, Robbie Avila, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, if you know his nicknames. He actually played in Glenview, I believe, before getting into the college ranks, but he was a very good player in the state of Illinois high school basketball. So that's one player that we had that was on St. Louis that was obviously their one impact player, but in the tournament you can't just rely on one impact player to get you to the Sweet 16. You need a more than at least two players. Next up, Alabama, Texas Tech. Never a game. Alabama was just making threes at will, firing shots from everywhere. And Texas Tech, they can't score the ball really at all. I think a lot of their points came in garbage time with like the bench players. Next is Tennessee, Virginia. Previously, though, like what I said about Texas A&M, it could be said about Tennessee because I always get Tennessee wrong in the tournaments. I hear too much of the talking heads talk about how their coach, Rick Barnes, has never been to like the Sweet 16 or to the Elite 8, and I kind of had that fatigue, and I was like, okay, this is not going to be the year, especially against a team with notoriety like Virginia that I hear everyone was talking about. Not even talking about, but like not talking about. Okay, so this doesn't make sense. I feel like if the team's not talked about and they are in the tournament, that actually means they're good because people that are fans of the other teams don't want to acknowledge that team as a threat to their team meeting up in the tournament. So if that was a thing, that's definitely possible. That could have happened. But then we had the Kentucky and Iowa State game. In Iowa State, same with Texas A&M. I am an Iowa State hater. I cannot stand Iowa State in every sport because in football they talk about like they're going to be top 10 every single year. Maybe they get to the top 10 ranking, but then they fall flat after they face a team like Colorado and get plummeted. But people don't. I was gonna say people. I don't respect Iowa State. That's why I picked Kentucky because I'm like, okay, it's a big school. All these freak athletes that Kentucky usually have will be too much for them, but Kentucky is just falling off a cliff. People have talked about Arkansas and John Calipari winning the breakup for that one, similarly to the Bill Belichick, Tom Brady things, like in a similar vein, like not all the way there, but there is something there when you have to talk about it because Kentucky is a blue blood and they have not been to a deep run in the tournament in quite some time. Like I cannot tell you the last time. Next up, we're going to the round, the Sweet 16. I hope I don't get sued. So we might have to say the third round of the tournament. And the first matchup we had here is a number 1 seed versus a number 5 seed. Number 1 seed Duke versus number 5 seed St. John's, and the Johnnies and the Big East were fell off short here because Duke ultimately took control, even though it was a big, powerful game. Duke just had too many players making shots, and I think their playmaking and their overall scoring outdid them over St. John's in this one. Next up, UConn, Michigan State. I can't believe I picked MSU to beat UConn. I'm a big UConn fan. I think Danny Hurley is hilarious. I really can't believe I chose them to lose to Michigan. I can't believe I chose UConn to lose to Michigan State. I'm looking over this right now, and this is very shocking to me. I did not think I put this in. That would be very annoying if I was on a streak of 100%, and that's the one that got me knocked off my feet. That would be very, very funny. Next up, we're gonna have Iowa, Nebraska. The big storyline of this was that these two teams love their football teams, but their football teams aren't ever good enough to be in the college football playoffs, so they had resorted to meeting in the basketball court. And as we see here, Iowa took them down by a score of 77-71. So that's the score that we had there. Bennett Sturts really is a great point guard. What is he, like 6'4"? He looks like he's built like a truck. He's probably going to be a top 20 pick in this upcoming NBA draft. The coach for Iowa is doing an excellent job over there, having his team living up, surpassing expectations because they're similar to Indiana in football. They've had a lot of people that were quote-unquote unwanted treasure in other teams, and now they're finding themselves a home in Iowa with their new coach. Next up, we have. I'm sorry, guys. I've been watching too much House of Cards lately, and that's how Frank Underwood talks sometimes. So I have a Frank Underwood like lisp now. It's bad, but watch the show. Like I'm on season 4 right now, and it's just getting like even better. It's been good the whole time, but like now he's back to his roots and his F shit that he did not do in the first, or that he was doing in the first seasons, that then he took like a break for a little bit for reasons you can understand. But just check it out. Good show. Characters will like, crazy storylines, and just give you a look at the politics of everything in this country, because honestly it's pretty similar to how things are going. I think I've talked about this before as well. Next up, the biggest matchup, not the biggest matchup, but like the most, if you like basketball, you're going to be watching this game. Let's just say that. It's a rock fight. And we had Illinois versus Houston. The big storyline of this one was that the Sweet 16 game was actually being played at the Houston Rockets Arena, which is right like a 2-minute ride from Houston's campus. So that was kind of unfair for Illinois. But, Illinois looked at it like, oh, we could have got a better seed and we could have been playing at home. But unfortunately, that's not how it shook out. They had to travel to Houston, and it was a battle the whole game until like midway through the second half. Illinois just put their offense caught a little fire, and then their defense did the job. And the lack of offense from Houston, which has been a problem for them since they've been on these runs in the playoffs under Kelvin Sampson, just was not enough to overcome a deficit late. But Illinois looked like they were trying to give the ball away with all the inbounces that they had that were going wrong. But ultimately, Illinois held on, and they're moving on to the Elite Eight. The one that got me mad the most was Arkansas losing to Arizona, obviously because I had Arkansas winning my whole bracket. But Darius Acuff could not really spring loose in this game, and he was the whole reason why I picked them to win the national championship. But he was not a lost cause out there. He was being like double teamed almost every time. And when he does make some of the passes to the perimeter on those double teams, his player makers aren't really good enough to make those threes. You'd see a lot of like hesitation and then drives to the basket from the teammates he's passed to. So they were never going to overcome any lead in that game, especially with how Arizona was playing. They scored 109 points. And they could have scored more, but at that point, towards the end, they put in like their reserve players, and their starters were on the bench icing up for the next game. Another great game was Purdue versus Texas. I could not really tell you how this game ended. I think it was Troy Kaufman-Renn with a buzzer beater to win that one for them. But anytime Purdue plays, I just kind of fall asleep because I just think they're a boring team that plays like the most slow pace of basketball imaginable. And the guys that are on their team have been there for like 5 years, which I am a proponent of, but that team is just not fun. No fun players. They're all just the same like mayonnaise type of players, just so bland and plain. And then next up, we have Michigan versus Alabama. Shout out Rico Bosco. This was a game for him. So what I meant by that was there's this guy that works at Barstool Sports. His name is Rico. He's a special guy, very crazy guy. But him and his boss, Dave Portnoy, had a bet since Dave Portnoy is a Michigan fan. If Michigan won the game, Rico will have to do a podcast with his arch nemesis. And if Alabama won the game, then Dave would double Rico's salary and extend him at the company for 10 years, where he is currently on a year-by-year deal just because he's had his troubles in the past, and that's how they keep him in check, I guess. But that was the thing that was brought up to decide on, and Rico took the bet, but it did not come out on top because they lost 90-77. The only time they're really in the game was during the first like 2 commercial breaks, and then after that it just went all downhill, and you could see who the better team was. Another game that I couldn't tell you, I didn't watch a second of, is Tennessee, Iowa State. Like those teams, those jersey matchups themselves just don't give me any intrigue to turn the game on. Like Ew, that's just too much orange, too much like yellow, too much nastiness going on that court on that day. But Tennessee ultimately won, and what was that? Rick Barnes is like first Elite Eight in history of his team. I think it might have been. And then the game that everybody saw this past weekend that is going to go down in March Madness history is UConn versus Duke. See, I'm a good guy, and I don't call off of work because I know a lot of people call off of work where they work, but not me. I had to take my loss with this one and go to work in the midst of the UConn and Duke game, and I guess I missed everyone in the first half said it was the most boring game in the first half. Nothing really happening. Duke dominating because, as you know, it was a 19-point lead that UConn ultimately wiped away to win the game. But it wasn't just the lead that was wiped away. The last play was something you might not see again for quite some time in the college basketball world. Duke was up by 2 points. 2 points. Yeah, 2 points. All they had to do was take a foul, make their free throws. Game pretty much over. 10 seconds left at this point. Keep in mind. Duke has the ball. They're inbounding it. They pass it to their center, or the center's inbounding it. He passes it to the guard. The guard gets trapped quick. Passes it to the center. The center passes it back to a guy standing a little farther down. And then that guy is trying to make a pass all the way down to the other baseline that would have ended the game, but it gets deflected by Mullins on UConn. The ball deflects, ends up in the fifth-year senior Alex Karaban's hand. He pump fakes from the right side, kicks it back to his left, about 6 feet behind him from the logo, a little more to the left of the court, is Mullins from UConn pulling up and shooting and drilling the three for the win. And UConn sends Duke home by a score of 73 or 73 to 72. And the building was going crazy. Grandmas were swearing. Parents were hugging each other. Coaches were running up to refs' faces and staring them down. It was pandemonium laugh. Man, I messed it up. That was going to be sounded so nice. Okay, I can't. Yeah, I messed it up. And now it messed me up. But yeah. UConn won on the buzzer beater. Dan Hurley said it was the first buzzer beater of his basketball coaching career, which is awesome. Go Duke, or go Blue Devils. Duke, move on. I liked you when I was younger, but not for long. Next up, Iowa versus Illinois. The 9-seed Iowa trying to keep up their run, going up against Illinois. Another Big Ten matchup for the Hawkeyes. Illinois, powerhouse. Now I'm saying it. I'm giving them the powerhouse card, everybody. Illinois is a powerhouse of a team, and they did everything they needed to do. Well, in the first half, they had me scared. I ain't gonna lie. Their offense was not looking good. The very ugly offense. Bennett Sturts from Iowa was making every three took off. Literally left to right, right to left, behind screens, running up behind, front of screens, everywhere. This guy was a threat with the ball in his hand, and Illinois made the things they had to do with just like 10 minutes to 8 minutes left in the second half. They locked in. Their guys started playing like the team they played like when they were at their best all season. They had their big guys working in the paint. They had their three-point shooters shooting. They had Andrei Stojakovic driving, Keaton Wagler doing his thing, making people fall down, looking for maps. Illinois is a very well-rounded team. The only downsides, I would say, might be their defense. I don't even know if that's accurate, though, because I feel like they have a solid defense, but I don't feel like they have any shot blockers on their team, which could play dividends in a tournament game, especially if some of these big guys that they have get in foul trouble. It might not be the best for the team. Yeah, it might not be the best for the team. So we just Illinois just has to keep their game plan sound and go and execute in their next game. Arkansas versus Purdue, or Arizona versus Purdue. I wish it was Arkansas because my bracket would have still been going, but Arizona is just a threat for everyone. 79-64 against the 2 seed, a team that everyone thought has the most experience and that would lead them to a good run in the tournament. Elite Eight is good, but Matt Painter is always his light's always flickering out when it comes against these good teams in the tournament. There has to be some stat of him against 1 seeds, and I'm not talking about when they lost to Harley Dickinson. Harley Dickinson, that's on his own. Another game I was at work for, I didn't watch. Michigan, Tennessee, absolute blowout. And then here we have my final 4, where I only got 2 out of the 4 teams right. So here on Saturday night, we have UConn at Illinois. And then after that, we have Arizona and Michigan. So we got 2 1 seeds, a 2, and a 3 seed this year. My final 4 was Duke and Illinois, and I had Duke beating Illinois. God dang, I'm a freaking mean-ass dude, man. How did I do that? Then I had Michigan and Arizona, or I had Arkansas and Michigan, but I had Arkansas winning that one, which is obviously probably a better thing now that it happened, because why is Arizona still highlighted? This app sucks. I don't know why they changed how they used to do it. It used to be so much better to see the blue or the green and the red of your picks being right or them being wrong. And now it's just, now you just need to guess. Like, it doesn't even show you the score I picked for the championship game either. But seeing Arkansas here just makes me really mad. Like, I do not want to see this. But Arkansas, I had winning it. But so we have Arizona and Michigan at 7:49, then UConn and Illinois at 5:09. Obviously, I want Illinois to win because that's our home state team. And then I also want, I guess I want Arizona to win because Michigan has been winning too much lately. They need to be humbled. And they won college football a couple years ago, and Dave Portnoy would be miserable if they won them basketball too. So that's enough March Madness talk for now. I just want to really quick hop in on so right now the winter meetings, we're just going to hop into like the winter meetings and everything that's happened with that for the NFL coaches. So in Arizona right now, all the coaches are meeting, all the GMs are meeting. There's pictures being taken with all of them, videos being taken. I saw coaches at a dinner yesterday at a very nice like hotel pool thing, and 28 of the 32 coaches were there, but in the picture you don't see any of the Harbaughs, Vrabel, or Ben Johnson. And then you see people like Kyle Shanahan, Mike LaFleur, Sean Payton, all these guys shooting the crap all around the pool. And I'm starting to question, maybe Ben Johnson rubbed a lot of feathers with his comments he made about Matt LaFleur and the Packers. I mean, I guess he did, because why is he not there? I also feel like he doesn't have any close connections in the league with coaching-wise, besides maybe Dan Campbell, if they're still connected. But who knows? With Ben Johnson, all is fair and more, and they will go to war against the Lions twice a year come September to January. So there's a possibility that some bad blood has been spilled between the two of them, but I think Dan Campbell seems like he would still be with Ben Johnson because he would probably want to take credit for giving him the coaching tree and all that stuff. But yeah, right now we also are going to have finish up with talking about the NBA and this race that is happening in the NBA playoff race. We have Victor Wembanyama currently in probably the favorite to win. We have Luka, and then Jokic, and then Shea. 4 European players. The conversation has been happening a long time about European basketball catching up to the Americans, and I mean that's something that should be talked about. But obviously, when you go to international play, those guys aren't all going to be on the team together. They're going to play for their respective countries. And I'm not complaining because I'm a Thunder fan and I want to see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander do great things that he does on the basketball court. So I want him to win MVP again and continue to build on his legacy for the Thunder and the rest of the league. The Bulls are a lost cause. They just released Jaden Ivey, and he was like going on a rant about a bunch of different things on his Instagram lives, which is never a good thing for a player to do when they're just tweaking out, looking like they're a lost cause, and then they just get cut from the team, and then that seems like the downfall. Like we've seen it in NFL teams with like Antonio Brown. We could be seeing it right now with Puka Nacua. Players just saying crazy things. Chandler Jones a couple of years ago. Players just saying the most insane things on these Instagram lives, and no one keeping them in check. No one in their circle like helping them and like keeping them from doing this stuff. It's very disappointing. Like, and then I'm not giving the people around them all the blame, but like if you know your boyfriend, your son, your husband is struggling, like you should be there and try to like stop him or like get him the help he needs. Like at least Puka Nacua is getting the help he needs right now. And it's like no one's gonna give him crap for it because he realized he had to make a change. But yeah, that's gonna be the episode today. I know it was just a little short one, but I just wanted to really give a quick little deep dive and a little recap on my March Madness bracket and how it's been going so far. Yeah, next week we'll go over the Final Four and the national championship game. We'll be really close to the draft at that point. Like I think there's like 2 more weeks until the NFL draft. We'll talk about Easter stuff. And next week I'm also going to start a new segment, the AI or Sports Illustrated Remembered, which is basically just going back and reading all of my favorite old Sports Illustrateds that I have in my room and just recapping them and just saying what I think of them and like what they mean to me. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning into this episode, and I will see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye.